Greetings and salutations, all you beautiful individuals. Welcome to another episode of League Online. Our with you fine, feathered individuals for count 'em Trez finals over the weekend. MSI spots on the line across the board, except in the LPL, because we already knew those two teams were headed to the action at MSI, and we're going to begin with the banger series, the 5-game set, most competitive. Yes, we were delivered silver scrapes again in the rematch between Cloud9 and FlyQuest, and this was about as back and forth a Game 5 as you could possibly have. And first and foremost, gotta say, the pressure that both Bwipo and Inspired were putting with the flank potential on the Gragas and the Pocket Kazakhs pick in this game really opened up the opportunity for Masu to do 41,000 damage.
Yeah, gave a lot of windows, a lot of opportunities to jump in there and pump out those damage numbers for Masu. But yes, that pressure, that chaos, the nightmare that they are creating out there on the Rift, that question of, is it going to be both? Is it one? What's happening here? Am I safe to push up? All sorts of things like that. Really well utilized by FlyQuest. What an amazing series. At the end of the day, I don't know how you step away from this without having any type of zero pause or whatsoever, going that these are the two best teams in the LTA. No question, proven through these, throughout every week of the season, through these playoffs, through these back matches that we have had, these rematches in these best of fives. These are the two teams. It's an unfortunate shame, and it's one that you probably could look back in history and rarely apply, but it really is a shame to not have both of these teams earn a spot at the MSI International event upcoming.
Yeah, especially, with, Cloud9 would be more competitive. Maybe Furia eSports going to completely shock us and surprise us and have some big upsets, but the draw would be bigger for Cloud9, and FlyQuest again showed their flair for the dramatics and absolute ice in their veins clutch type of factor, winning, of course, base race fashion, much like they did in 2024, winning that first title. Not quite as insane as that ending, but the call to go for this Nexus rush while they're fighting over the Elder Dragon is obviously stone cold in a Game 5 finals.
And that's what you love to see. That's what you want to see from the winning team, the champion, the best team that we have seen throughout the LTA the entirety of this year, is that type of decisiveness, that clutch factor when it does matter, when it is situations where you need someone to be an X factor, to make a call, to make a read, something of the situation, and have the confidence and courage to go through with it, to fully send and go into that type of thing. It's obviously a different world if things don't play out the way that they did. But for FlyQuest, seeing that type of decisive action, seeing that execution from this team, these are the type of moments in big pressure, make or break, where you have to be able to execute and be able to be decisive in what you are doing and how you're doing it. And all 5 members of FlyQuest showed that skill today. And that's something that simply just doesn't come out of the blue. It's something that you have to work hard on. You have to have opportunities and experiences to showcase it. And you see it here with FlyQuest, feeling good about them going towards MSI.
And now, obviously, they're only going to get more experiences and opportunities going to that international event that hopefully will help bring the level of the entire region up even higher, because, Cloud9's the only one who's sniffing the rarefied air that FlyQuest is at right now. And if you are Cloud9, obviously this is tough. You lose back-to-back Game 5s against FlyQuest. You prove you can push them to the absolute limit. It was even when they were on match point in Game 4, you were sweating if you were FlyQuest that you weren't even going to get to that silver scrape opportunity, and they have absolutely nothing to show for it. They don't get any international event. They don't get any okay, are we feeling more confident going into the split? We lost both of these matchups. You feel like it's tough for them, and I hope the mental is okay for the boys, because what Loki and Thanatos especially were showing in this series is they can be MVP level players.
They can be, and their development is crucial, not only to Cloud9, but specifically, of course, the LTA and its continued development, growth, and where it can punch up and down on the international stage. having those type of players continue to grow, continue to excel is going to be a big part of that. And that's why it's so frustrating, so unfortunate that Cloud9 is left on the sidelines once again in this type of situation, especially one of these ones where, you can understand it more so in a first stand, okay, beginning of the year, it's not going to be as many people, whatever, missing out on this MSI experience before Worlds is around the corner. And it does open up a little bit more as far as the spots in the LTA. You really would have liked to have that little bit of that exposure, a little bit of that experience, test your toe in the water, all sorts of things like that. As this core 5 group for Cloud9, you're not going to get that. And that is the cost of not winning the series and all these sorts of things. But I look at it as good progress to these playoffs for Loki and Thanatos, as you mentioned. And the other big bright spot that I want to look at with Cloud9 is what a blessing it is for the LTA, for North America, that we actually have Sven, and he has stayed committed to the region and stayed here. This is a guy that had, 43 or so plus kills throughout the entirety of this series, a record-breaking number in him in the loss, gets right back out there to do the loser interview and gives him a solid, really emotion and heartfelt type of answer and clear cut. This is someone that you want to be representing your region and being there. And he even posts about it online afterwards, going, there was a moment, in this series where I just realized, what? I love League of Legends. I love doing this and getting to, be at this type of stage. And that's not something that you get to hear and see all the time from these type of guys. So really, I think that he was someone that I wanted to give a shout out to, even on the losing side for Cloud9.
He's absolutely a face of the league that you want to have, whether he's a player or when he did step away and was on the desk a lot, just a guy, a personality that you want involved in the game. And he's been in North America longer than he was in Europe now. So yeah, he's a proud NA boy now at this point. And one other note on this series, imagine if FlyQuest lost this Game 5 and they were denied defeat of Warfare due to a bug that Riot says, well, nobody said anything, so the game goes on.
Would have been an extremely, extremely bad situation to be in if that was the one where it is this scenario of, well, okay, you got to hit that reset button. Are you not hitting that reset button? Whatever is going on, because that is a mega whoopsie that is avoided thanks to the performance of FlyQuest.
Yeah, and Riot saying, whoops, thank you for that one, Mr. Based FlyQuest, for allowing that one to not be a complete disaster. Riot is also thanking the LCK for saving their MSI viewership, as we are down on them throughout the entire split, the ebbs and flows, the roller coaster, the bench warming of T1, and like the sky is blue in the day, we see T1 level up for playoffs, become a totally different team, and are actually more tested by KT Rolster than Hanwha Life, huh?
I'm convinced it was the G2 and BLG group chat that they've got going on the side from all the past events, egging them on, saying, hey, here's my plane ticket.
T1,
where's yours? Yeah. T1, you got to make it. And they do. They come through. And you're right. The biggest surprise of it all is that it was the KT series. It was the one that did provide the most pushback, even, yes, still, a 3-1 win for the side of T1. Still one of these ones where there was contention within a couple of those games in comparison to what was outside of, maybe a little bit in that first game. Outside of that, I think game 2 pretty much more so in favor of T1. And then game 3, the wheels completely fell off for Hanwha Life in this series. T1, after all the drama, ups and downs of it all, are booking themselves another MSI appearance.
Yeah, and listen, games 1 and 3 are Omega stomps, and I feel like you saw the mental of Gen G, of Hanwha Life, after they lose that back and forth game 2, completely boomed, and it felt like that reverse sweep from Gen G definitely had an impact. I don't think anyone in their right mind is saying this was Hanwha Life close to operating at 100%. It, of course, feels like old times, seeing Doran take Mr. Zeus out to the shed in what, not technically a finals, but a final type event. And obviously we used to meme Zeus pretty hard for that happening to him when he was still on T1. But this is a classic case of, I'm still giving it more T1 having a huge level up, but if you're splitting it 50-50, I'm going like 60 T1 being absolute beasts and 40% Hanwha not really showing up on the day.
I'm a little more biased. I don't know if you can tell, but I'll throw the 65, 35. I'll throw it a little bit more so in favor for T1. But I think that type of assessment certainly is right. And it's one of these ones where there is some type of fault on the side of Hanwha Life, even if you are accounting for it being because of the Gen G series, because of the fashion that it happens, reverse sweep, that you don't have the preparation, the time, the emotion to be able to snap out of it and refocus, re-gear up for a T1. And let's face it, a T1 that is better than the T1s we were expecting to see, no matter what you talk about as far as what T1 could show up and everything else like that. You'd have to be pretty crazy to imagine a world where the form would be as clean, as precise as it was throughout these series against KT and Hanwha Life, given that it was the Nongshim loss and a Hanwha Life loss to close out the season for T1 at this point. So yes, there is something to be examined and there is some cost to this one for Hanwha Life, but I think at the end of the day, a lot of people are still going to view them as a very strong team and one of these teams to bounce back in the summer split.
And they should be angry heading into that next round because, again, like to paint the picture, in these game 1 and 3, like these aren't just wins. We're talking 51-7 cumulatively in a kill score, and that happening to this version of Hanwha Life that we've seen all split is unthinkable to happen to any team in the world.
And a handful of solo bolos going your way of Mr. Doran in the top side, giving a healthy reminder of making sure that everyone else was thanking their father on Father's Day, showing up as Big Papa to Zeus in the top side once again. I think that's going to be part of that anger, part of that challenge that you would gear towards Hanwha Life for next split is going, okay, yes, you got first stand and everything else, and then things didn't go our way this second split around. You really got to prove it in this summer split that comes around that you are the top dog. Not, we're second up to Gen G or, we're third up to T, whatever it is. You want to be the very best of the LCK. Go out there and prove it. And I think a part of that, again, is pointing that finger towards the biggest and most important member of this team with Zeus in the top side and how his performance and individual matchup went against Doran.
And, of course, let's give a shout-out to Faker in this series because we, rightfully so, us and a lot of other people have been heavily critical of his individual performance throughout, especially when T1 wasn't looking so great. The KT series, BDD was trying to drag this team, kicking and screaming and outperforming Faker, but fantastic series against Zeka, especially seeing him flash over to get this huge lead on Annie in the Game 3 felt like peak T1, and despite the level Hanwha Life has been at, if you are the other teams heading to MSI, seeing T1 level up like this is probably even more terrifying a prospect.
That Annie pick was just a masterful pick that comes out at the time and just beautifully used by Faker in a lot of those situations. Yep, good to give him some credit. And the other guy that I think really does, of course, is that bottom lane for T1. So much of the talk with ADC about Gumayushi Smash, who's it going to be, all that ups and downs of it all. Of course, Gumayushi's performance is something that I want to be crediting and talking about the stability of it. But I actually think the real key throughout this playoff run was the other guy in the bottom lane, Kyria, his return to form, his return to that world-class, top-tier level of play and creativity that he's able to bring to the bottom lane. I thought you saw a lot of that through these playoffs, specifically the Hanwha Life series. He was a mega difference maker.
0-2 in 27 on Rakan. That's 27 out of the 29 kills for T1 that he was a participant of, and really those deaths easily could have been like 4 times the amount of times this dude was surviving with double-digit or less hit points, which, listen, seeing T1 survive team fights with a fraction of a health is what peak T1, this version of T1, has looked like over the last couple of years.
I was going to say, I've seen that before, and the times I've seen it before is when there's quickly after lifting the Summoners Cup as the world champions for the year. So yes, I'm feeling pretty confident, pretty good about T1, even if they're heading into this MSI with some question marks maybe lingering still from this splits performance.
And we got to do one big more shout out for BDD and KT Rolster, because being the 4th best team ending the season that they did, being competitive, even though they did still kind of lose convincingly against T1. But it felt like no one else was up to BDD's level in that series. But again, like just a Herculean split from BDD. Because there's no actual trophies or attending an international event, I think people will quickly forget about this split. But BDD, this guy, is an all-time mid laner.
I can't wait, because I just know that one day when we need to come up with an episode, a top 10 list or whatever, where we're going through the best seasons, best performances without a championship or whatever, this one's a top 3 right away. I'll call it right now for BDD, how good he has been, how impactful he has been for this KT Rollster squad. I think the biggest thing again is don't let this be 1 step forward, 2 steps back heading into the next split. This has to be more steps forward than it is moving back for KT in order to fully reestablish themselves, re-cement themselves into that top picture within the LCK.
If I'm BDD, I'm going into the manager's office and I'm pounding on the table. Get me some new get me some rookies who show promise. I need some kind of help.
There needs to be some sort of investment. And I know that we've heard rumors, rumblings over the last off season or two about maybe this is maybe an opportunity. No more maybes. It has to be a certain. You have to help this guy out. He is too good right now to leave him on his own.
BDD might be on a best split to not win anything list in the future, but you know who's no longer on a best player to not have a title under his belt? It is the king of the jungle, Tarzan, for anyone's legend. First title in 7 attempts for him. First title as an organization for anyone's legend, and they do it beating BLG in back-to-back series, and they level up even more. It's more convincing in these grand finals. And is there any more stylish way to do it than being denied a penta on Zed? But jungle Zed for Tarzan, and this game, this legit felt like when you need to take a break from solo queue and you go play a normal game so that you feel good about yourself, the style on players, and my man was doing it in the grand finals.
I go into ARAM for a little bit of that action to roll the dice on it, but my man says, nah, I'm hitting the real deal. Summoner's Rift out here, and I'm going to have some fun with it. Tarzan, this is fantastic. Congratulations on a wonderful job. And really the rest of anyone's legend, of course, is that you got to recognize and celebrate here in the LPL. But I think specifically Tarzan, of course, I think the news came out that his grandfather, who he was close with, had passed away just shortly before the game took place. And to be able to have that type of performance, that type of composure to come through on the day and be so excellent from Tarzan really is something that I think was spectacular and does deserve that special type of recognition and shout out. I'm so happy. Anyone's legend coming through, knowing that they were already going to be at MSI was already something really special, but having them come through as the champion and a champion against BLG, man, does that feel good.
And obviously, it wasn't just Tarzan across the board. I think you could talk about the team playing at a high level. Bin never had the massive impact in this series, neutralized by Mr. Flandre in that top side, and especially early on in this series, Kyle had some absolutely insane, Nautilus 1v3 surviving dives. He's got some insane rel engages. I think people who don't watch the LPL are going to see anyone's legend going to MSI as the top seed and say, who are these guys, man? The West can take down the LPL. No. Go watch the games.
I'm convinced that they were looking at one of those, Ripley's Believe It or Not type of museum, wavy mirror type of things, looking at the Nautilus, because there's no way a guy that big with that big of a hitbox is not getting hit with some of these things. Dancing and dodging away through them was Kyle. It was really fantastic. A really wonderful series here from the LPL. I still think that there's quite a lot of power being shown and a resurgence of power for BLG, but it was a really nice answer that the top team, the team that has been rising over the last year or so in the LPL, finally reaches that ultimate peak of the region, getting that championship and getting that ticket to represent as the #1 seed.
And obviously, you're most excited for Tarzan, as we mentioned, but talk about a cathartic win for your boy Tabe as that head coach, doing it against BLG, who didn't want him back after the year he was there where they started to ascend. He goes, okay, fine, I'll go to anyone's legend. People probably laughed at that the first year. They overperform a little, and then 1 year later, part of his blueprint, they're capturing a title. And this guy now is like approaching GOAT status of LPL coach. You go back to the RNG days where he's picking up MSI titles, BLG ascends, and now what he's done with Anyone's Legend. This guy is an absolute treat to have on a squad.
There's nobody else in the LPL as far as coaching staffs that I think has got a hotter ticket, more of a red ticket than this guy right now. Because yes, you're right. What you have seen throughout, again, and this is quite a while ago to go back to the RNG days at this point, but what you saw with that organization and kind of how everything has gone since then, and then you go flipping the page over to seeing where the page starts for BLG in this chapter of where they are a top contending team, and then you start the chapter already on Anyone's Legend, and here we are picking up speed and getting right back into this spot. I gotta say, really fantastic stuff from Tabe. He's one of the guys that keep an eye on as we go through the offseason and rumors, because contract or not, will be a hot opportunity to try and poach this guy. I'm very excited about this one for so many reasons, but I'll go on the most surface level, cosmetic of reasons here right now for you. We get to see the Anyone's Legend logo at MSI. Come on, that's gonna be a banger.
Oh, you got the Panda Samurai and all these teaser videos. You know, the last MSI they did like the tiger, the dragon. We need the panda teasing for Anyone's Legend coming in here. So obviously you're feeling great about them, but T1 obviously levels up as the second seed from the LCK. BLG loses and is still heading to MSI, but BLG as a team, I think you're still looking at this squad as very capable of taking games and potentially series off of T1 and Gen G, and if they find that form that we saw at times in this regular season and playoffs, they could still win the entire event.
It's scary because I don't think BLG is no longer the sleeping dragon in the cave where you can maybe sneak in and grab a couple pieces, get out of there before it wakes up. The dragon's awake and it's patrolling around the dungeon. You might get lucky or might get a situation with skill and everything else like Anyone Legend where you can eke out and get out of there with that trophy gem and everything else. It's going to be a tough task for a couple of these squads at MSI to tiptoe their way around the dungeon against what will be a squad like BLG.
And I think losing in back-to-back series against Anyone's Legend probably only making them a little bit angrier. And unfortunately, I got a hunch of Western Teen might be the punching bag where some of that anger gets taken out.
I can't wait for the FlyQuest BLG first match. There it is.
We're going to have some absolute banger matchups across the board, of course, north of the border here in Vancouver. We'll do a full preview for MSI as the weeks come on, but that is it today for Liga Unlock. Eric and Mark here with you, absolute beauties. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll catch you on that flippity flip.